Hi, my name is Ashika Ganguly. I'm running for Austin City Council District 10. I have been supportive of the land use development changes that have happened recently. I think that we have a housing shortage in Austin, and we need to be very clear eyed about that and think about real solutions to address that housing shortage. I grew up here in Austin, and I've seen, throughout my lifetime as a young professional trying to build my own life here and invest in a generational community. I've seen that it is becoming increasingly more and more difficult for our children and grandchildren to be able to continue to invest in their own community. I also was a classroom teacher, and throughout my time in the classroom, I felt so blessed and lucky to be able to live and work in the same community. And I saw how much of a difference that made for those students and for their family to have their teacher, this essential worker, be part of their own community, see them walking home from school after school, come to community events on the weekend. But many of my coworkers who had young children or families couldn't say the same, and they had to live in Buda or Pflugerville or Round Rock and commute 45 minutes to an hour every day. So I do believe that we need to create more housing within our urban core. But as a native Austinite, I also understand that we have very unique neighborhoods with long history and culture. I believe that there are ways for us to expand housing and create more housing while also paying homage to those unique cultures of our neighborhood, making sure we're keeping Austin Austin, honoring what's special about the city, being sensitive to environmental concerns. I'm hopeful that the home initiative will provide pathways to home ownership for middle income families, for young professionals, for first responders, for essential workers within our urban core. I also believe that policy is a living process, and when on council, I will be the first to look at our annual report that is part of the home initiative and think about iterations and changes and perfections that we can make to the policy to make sure it's working for Austinites. I have been long supportive of encouraging multimodal methods of transportation in the city. I have been a huge proponent of Project Connect. We know we need fixed route transit in the city, connecting east to west Austin, north to south Austin. And we need things like urban trails, bike lanes, pedestrian walkways to help folks get through urban areas of the city without having to use a car. We recently had the pilot program on Barton Springs Road where we went down to one lane and added a bike lane. Many people that I spoke to didn't even realize that that change had happened. And the data showed that there was no effect on car traffic. It did not slow down the road for cars, but it did reduce accidents and pedestrian injuries by a significant amount. So if we're trying to get to vision zero of making sure that we have no pedestrian or bike injuries or deaths, and then also making sure that we're moving our city away from a car-centric lifestyle because we know it's better for quality of life and we know it's better for the environment. I'm a proponent of making sure that we have many different types of transit options all over the city. This is a personal issue for me. When I was a classroom teacher, we served as the homeschool for the Salvation Army homeless shelter when it was on 8th Street. So every year I had between, 5 to 10 kiddos that were in and out of transient situations or were living in an unhoused situation in and out of my classroom. So I got to know those families very well in the different systemic issues that they were dealing with. It's an issue that I want to approach with a humanitarian, compassionate mindset first. I believe that we need to look at our spending in homeless services, think about smarter ways to spend it. I really want to see the city do more on preventative homeless services. We know that if we can catch someone within their first 10 days of being homeless or on the brink of homelessness, it's much easier to help them get into permanent supportive housing rather than someone who's been on the streets for several months or more. They're more likely to be dealing with mental health issues, substance abuse disorders. So I'd love to see us look more at preventative homeless services. And then for those folks that have been on the streets for some time, we should be looking at holistic homeless services, wraparound services, looking at those mental health pieces, looking at those substance abuse pieces. We also know that there are a number of amazing nonprofits working in this space already in the city. So it's not necessary for the city to come in and try and reinvent the wheel. I'd love to see the city support the existing organizations doing work in this space already. You know, Caritas is working with veterans, Sunrise is working with families, Foundation Communities is working with adults. So there are these different organizations that are already working in their specific niche, and we have an opportunity as a city to come in and serve as an aligning force between these organizations and to provide them more support than what they're already receiving. And then lastly, we know that housing is a trickle-down issue. So as each level of housing becomes more unattainable for the previous tax bracket, that is going to trickle down and end up with more folks on the street. So we need to be thinking with a 30-year, 50-year, 100-year lens and think about how to create more housing in the city so that less people are ending up on the streets.